Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest installment of A Conversation with, and I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall. And today I am joined by two phenomenal filmmakers that I've had the pleasure of following since 2015. And
Wow.
these two amazing gentlemen came across my radar because of the film that they entered into my film festival back in 2015, Imperfect Sky, which was an amazing film. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But today I am joined by Graham Streeter and Alex Lebosq. Now, did I get your last name right?
Perfect.
Great. So I am joined today by Graham Streeter and Alex Lebosq of Imperative Pictures. And again, these two gentlemen are phenomenal and prolific filmmakers. And the thing that I like about their film company is the type of films that they produce. They produce thought provoking social films that will definitely get you talking. So I have a lot of questions for the two of them. So, Graham, Alex, welcome to A Conversation with. How are you gentlemen doing?
Thank you. We are great now that we're on your podcast.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's been great. When you said you asked if we like to be on it, it was months ago, months and months ago,
Mhm.
and I always find it interesting when you like log a date in a book that's clearly far in advance, and you think, oh, it seems like forever went before this will ever happen, and you think how nice and exciting it'll be to finally talk to you, but
Mhm.
then like that it happens, and here we are. So. Thank you for reaching out, and honored to be with you today.
The honor is mine. And it's interesting because when I'm looking to bring people on the show, sometimes the light bulb will go off. And one day I was sitting there and you guys were talking about Unfixed, which we're going to talk about. And I said to myself, what the hell? Why haven't I had them on the show yet? But you know what? Everything happens in good time. And I'm glad that, I asked the both of you when I did, because I really want to dive in to your latest film, which is doing phenomenally well. But my first question that I have for the two of you is, how did the two of you get started in the business?
Wow. Okay. So we both come from different angles. Um, my angle is that I'm just a desperate, helpless artist. I do nothing. I have no other skill sets than art. So I was forced into film, forced in the fact that I feel like it's a blessing. But when you follow what you're good at, the only thing I was good at was art, and I just kept on going down that path. And whenever I had a diversion of any sort, I tried to steer my way back into art, and film just seemed to be, by evolution of experience, it was the most complicated form of art that I can think of doing, because it's a dynamic, it's sound, it's picture, it's storytelling, it's political, it's emotional, it's all those things. It's leadership, it's organization, it's a bit of risk, but all wrapped in the name of art. So I mean, just it was just by perseverance that I kept going in this direction and ended up in film. Alex, a little different.
Yep. My background is in advertising. So I've been working in commercial production for almost 30 years. One of my claim to fame, as I would try to reference, is working on Apple. So working on the iPod commercials, the silhouette dancing commercials, and then the Mac PC campaign, and then launched the iPhone and the iPad. So telling short stories, but also relevant stories, very memorable stories. And I think that that's kind of how we started collaborating and continuing our storytelling in a very imperative way. So that's how we kind of evolved into producing independent films that matter.
Oh, okay. So, Graham, let's go back because when I was reading your bio, I was fascinated to learn that you spent 10 years in Japan. How did that happen?
kind of an informal home stay, like a foreign exchange would be. My stepfather was working with the Department of Justice, and he was doing security measures back and forth for Olympics and different kinds of events, and working with standardizing security and things like that. And Japan came up in conversation over and over again, because one of the topics that was going, his targets was Japan and their athletes coming to the United States. So it became an interest really early on. And then when I was 16, I asked if I could go just for a summer. And so it was arranged for me to go for a summer. And then when you're a teenager, a chance to get away from mom and dad, it felt like amazing. And I thought, can we just push this like maybe one semester? And one semester turns into 10 years later. You finish school and start working. And because of my language skills at that time, when you're young, you learn a language pretty quickly, luckily. And so I started working for Japanese TV. So kind of got on the front side and the back side of the camera early on in life. And that kind of sparked an interest in TV, and went from there.
Oh, okay. So you're working for Nippon TV. Did I say that right?
Nippon
Okay,
TV.
Nippon TV. You moved back to the States. You continue to work for Nippon for another 10 years, and you start Imperative Pictures in 2000. Why where did the connection come in? Why did you decide to start your own production company?
That's a really good question. So I have been doing short films and commercials and things like that. And I was getting ready to do a government contract that dealt with Gilead research for drugs, for monoclonal antibodies, actually, at that time, which was really unheard of. It was just the beginning of that whole thing. And my client needed me to be under a company. And so it just kind of was thrown at me, what's your name of your company? What do you call yourselves? And so that opens just a whole floodgate of like things. And it kind of, the writer in me says, well, what's the big picture here? If I'm going to call myself something, or if we're going to brand ourselves as something, what do we stand for? What do we want our flag to look like? As we march forward in life? And we knew that we wanted to deal with imperative issues. And then suddenly, well, Imperative Pictures, why not? So it just it made sense. And it wasn't hard to find once we took a moment to really ask ourselves, what's our legacy? What do we want to be when we're done with everything in film? What do we want to leave behind as a brand?
Right. So let's switch gears for a second, because Alex, you mentioned earlier that you work for the iconic company Apple. We're talking on an Apple computer, Apple phones everywhere in the house, and you worked on some pretty iconic campaigns. And when I read about you were involved in the launch of the iPhone, I'm sitting here saying, "Wow!" But then I also read that you helped with with Apple Music and Beats by Dre. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I found that absolutely fascinating.
I worked for the ad agency for a long time, and what is a common evolution is when the ad agency employee ends up working for the client. And so I became on the client side, and then because we're located in Los Angeles, and Apple is in Cupertino, they acquired Beats. And so Beats was located in, was located in Culver City. And so they made that their Southern California Apple office. And so that's when I started working with them, when Beats was transitioning into Apple, and was able to work on a lot of really cool campaigns then. And then after that, I left the advertising world, the full-time advertising day to day, and went freelance. So I ended up consulting. And then that allowed me the opportunity to produce films with Imperative Pictures. And then when we're done with the film, I go back to consulting. So it kind of keeps me busy all year round.
Okay. So how did the two of you meet?
In college. So we go back.
Oh.
Yeah.
to 1990.
We met in 1990 in
Oh,
college,
wow.
graduated together, and then moved to LA together and started working together.
Okay. So, wow. Okay. So I just lost my train of thought because that threw me a little bit. I didn't know you guys had known each other that long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, were you guys actually talking about partnering up back then, or was that something that just happened organically over the years because of the expertise in both the areas that you guys were in? So I guess the question I'm asking is, were you saying to yourselves, why don't we just, combine those skills and see what happens? So how did that work out?
You know, we were also partners in college on different projects.
Okay.
We were both business majors. Graham focused on international business, and I focused on marketing. So we had different concentrations, but we also had overlapping courses to where we were doing projects together, and knew that we worked well together. Even as we were in college, we were creating nonprofit events for the Mustard Seed School for Homeless Children of Sacramento, and also the Center for Independence of the Disabled. I mean, so we were already working on projects together, and then we ended up doing our own thing. Graham continued working with the Nippon Television. I started working with ad agencies. And then just kind of slowly we said, hey, let's do a short film together back in 1998. And then we did a second short film together, and then a film in Singapore. So it was, it kind of evolved. And because there's, projects like a film would take, you take a year to do, another 2 to 3 years to develop, and then kind of set up for another film. So, we just kind of made ourselves available for when these major films are being produced, and work together on those. And yeah, and just kind of made it a thing. So
Okay.
a thing that turned into Imperative Pictures.
Wow. So Imperative Pictures, you guys have created a lot of groundbreaking and thought-provoking and conversational piece types of films. And it sounds like that was always the mission. Now, was that always the mission, or did you guys just find yourselves moving in that direction because of your ideologies and your thought process and the way you thought about things? You're like, you know what? I think this is something that we want to do as far as the pieces because of some of the things that you just mentioned. So was that always a mission of the both of you with Imperative Pictures to make films that actually evoked conversation and change?
Absolutely was the target mission for anything that we did under the banner of Imperative Pictures. But actually, as Alex was saying, also, I think even in college when we were doing, like fundraisers for, homeless children and things like that, that we are always looking to do projects that gave a good footprint at the end, that we're leaving something behind that was good. I think entertainment was our passion, our love. Like anyone, we love entertaining. We love being entertained. We love entertaining. We love the entertainment world. But in the perfect mix of our lives, I feel like we both believe that if you can work and do something good at the same time, it's the best formula. So if we can leave this planet better than the way we came in with it, we had a good life. So we're always looking to do projects that kind of held that water, that kind of ground. And so that just made for good filmmaking choices, I guess, as we were deciding what could we do, what were we wanting to do. Well, like Alex said, it takes years to make a film.
Mhm.
And those years that you're dedicated to it might as well be something you could be really proud of. Something that we can talk about for years later as well.
True, true, true. Because the next thing that I want to ask you guys is, as I mentioned earlier, I first became aware of the both of you and Imperative Pictures because of Imperfect Sky when it was submitted to my film festival, the Philadelphia Independent Film Awards. That was an amazing film, and it dealt with some very truthful and sometimes very uncomfortable topics, such as homelessness, and also drug addiction. So, Graham, I take it you wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the 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 reason for you writing that particular film at that time? Because it's something that we all knew about, but it wasn't something that was widely being talked about. The fact that you had young people, from a broken home having to live on the streets, and then the young man having to do what he had to do to take care of his younger brother, but also being a heroin addict.
I think we were just kind of on the back end of a huge heroin problem across the country that was stemmed from opioid addictions, which is prescribed medication, that whole thing, and which is still, we're still in the news on that today as we
Yes.
speak. The family, actually has no legal penalties from this whole deal. So it was big enough to be an issue that I felt like it would be something that we could talk about for years to come, that it wouldn't go away right away, that it would have leg as far as the purpose for a film. And yet we always, when we do a subject, we want to take it to a different level. It can't be a documentary. It can't be, a soapbox, and we can't be shoving ideas down people's throats. But how can we get into the world of heroin addiction in a way that makes that is comfortable and familiar to an audience, a friendly way to get in, or a way that's a backdoor entrance that we don't know that we're in that issue perhaps until we're too deep in the story to realize, and then we're stuck in that world. So somehow, how do we get people to the level where they really kind of feel the gravity of the heroin addiction? And then also, I think one of our goals in this piece was to not make the heroin addict an evil. I mean, rotten to the core, because heroin does the most horrible things to anyone's choices. But under that, it was a human being who's crying for help. So it was important that we hit that topic, that we hit it raw and hard. And it was like, we wanted to make sure that it was uncomfortable. We wanted the things that you wouldn't want to, experience in life. You're going to go on that ride a little bit in this piece. And hopefully, if nothing else, you were scared straight from the whole thing. And maybe it'll be kids or people who will, say, I think I'm going to hold off on that, whatever that drug is, just in case, and just because. And, or also when they see someone on the street, they'll think twice that, well, we don't know their backstory. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what that journey was to get to that point, that they're human beings.
Okay. So, question. When you guys are about to make a film, and again, the types of films that you make, where does the question of how this is going to be distributed comes in? Because your films, they're not action films or things like that, and you're talking to a specific type of audience. So when you guys sit down and you say, okay, this is the type of film that we're going to make, this is the type of film that we're going to produce, is distribution a part of that conversation because of the type of films that Imperative Pictures releases, or do you guys self-distribute?
Well, you're right. The film is not action. It's not comedy. It's a drama that doesn't have A-list celebrities. So it's a very niche type of film, and it requires almost like a word of mouth. The distribution nowadays, you don't need 10 films under your belt to go to an aggregator. Just like iTunes, a musical artist can self-publish themselves and just kind of get it out there on Spotify and all of the streaming. Filmmakers nowadays can actually go with their one film and get it on all the platforms. So we go through the film festival run, and if distributors come to us, we ask them, what can you do that we can't do? And we've had some films distributed by various distribution companies in the past. And because our film does not have A-listers, it becomes really tricky. They just get it on all the platforms, and hopefully people go and stumble across them. So we understand that how to get that done. So we either self-distribute or somebody tells us that they can do a lot more than what we can do, and then we can consider them. As of now, our goal is just to build a library of Imperative Pictures films.
Okay.
And one day, once one major movie hits, everybody will know who we are, and we'll just kind of like race to our library and watch every single film that we've done.
Okay.
But at the same time, Floyd, it's like it's a big world. When you do a distribution, even self-distribution, when you're on a platform like Amazon and iTunes, and you're even just the English-speaking markets alone, there's millions of people who have access to the film now, right? And it just takes a few people around the world every day to say, what's a story about drugs or heroin and boom, there we are. And so it's very specific search, and then there's only a handful of films from there. And then, so even being passive, there's a market. That's the great thing about world, accessible platforms now. And how do you rise to the top? How do you make millions of views? That's like Alex says, you need a name, you need something to really hook in the mass media. But at the same time, it's our pleasure just to make films that even a few people a day see around the world.
So let me ask you this. You guys have a standalone production company, and it's not, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's not in any way tied to the Hollywood machine. Is that by design and choice?
By design and choice, I don't know.
Well,
yeah, I'll say it. Yeah, sure. Don't fit the model. It's weird because we have friends who do the big ones, that are getting Academy Awards, and they're like, "Oh my God, I wish I knew how you guys do what you do," because they need to be able to do only what they love to do. And they have no idea how to do what we do. I mean, honestly, we've had these questions. It's laughable because we're trying to ask them, how do they do what they do? Because we have no idea how they do it.
Right.
Yeah. But I think the further along you go, the wider that gap becomes too. I mean, literally, we build our own teams. We do everything. It's all independent. We know every facet of it. And people who are in the mainstream big studio world, they know one thing and one thing only, and that's the only thing they can do. What they do is impossible without this massive team of puzzle pieces that have to come together in order for them to be functional. Whereas we are the whole puzzle, but it's a small puzzle.
Yeah.
And I think that we don't have a lot of red tape to go through. We can take our time in choosing the story, obviously, and how we want to tell it, but also cherry pick the team, the people working with us, and making sure that everybody really cares about the subject matter in order for it to be as good as it can be in the end. You have quality over quantity, but also you conserve and you learn how to not be wasteful. And I think we also teach people who want to get into the film business, how to make it themselves if others become a roadblock. If the people who greenlight your film are the only people that can allow you to move forward, then you might have to rethink the formula a little bit. And here's our formula if you want to utilize that and create something for yourselves. And I think that, we, as many films as we've done, we've never really hit a point where, we're so in debt, we can't do another film until we, that's never the case here. Our formula works, whether we make money on our film, a lot of money or not, we can still continue and tell our stories in the way that we do and deliver it the way that we do and allow people like you to kind of talk about it, and which we truly appreciate.
We know successful mainstream blockbuster filmmakers who have one film under the belt and spent the next 20 years trying to find that next film that's going to click for them. whereas Alex and I are constantly in film mode. So we're artists that we have the opportunity to keep working all the time, and it's inspiring for us. I don't know if I would be a filmmaker if I only made one every 20 years. I might lose my steam.
And there must be a phenomenal sense of freedom in knowing that you're on your own timeline. Whereas if you were working under the studio model, you have to do what they say, you have to do it when they say it, and you have to do it how they say it. Whereas with your company, it is truly independent, because if you want, because let's be honest, some of the films that you guys have made, they ain't touching, because it's not, in their eyes, more than likely, well, that's not profitable. That's not something that we want to talk about, and nothing's being blown up. So that's not something that we want to do. So I guess there's a phenomenal freedom in knowing that you're able to make the type of films that you want to make when you want to make them.
Yeah, exactly. And yet it will, because we have to do everything with the film, and we have to
Right.
own it at the end, and we have to carry that thing all the way through life. We have to make damn sure that whatever topic and whatever story we do choose, it's not because we're taking the money for it. It's because it is our reputation at the end. So how we choose it's always that scary moment when we think, okay, are we going to make this film or not make this film? So yeah, but it's, I'm telling you, it's a great path to take if people are looking into going into the indie film world. It's a hard one, but you got to be the kind of people that want to be able to learn new things every day. I mean, constantly learning new skill sets that no one else is going to do. So you have to do it yourself. So it's constantly learning.
Wow. So let's talk about the project that you two gentlemen just completed, Unfixed. It's garnered a lot of attention. It's won a lot of awards at various festivals. So can you tell us what the film is about and why this subject matter is so controversial? And can you talk about what the subject matter is? I'm going to leave that up to you.
Yeah. The subject matter is called conversion therapy. So conversion therapy, if those who don't know what it is, conversion therapy is a tactic, a practice, a therapy, unquote, that manipulates or changes, ideally, cures a person from homosexuality. So they become the preferred gender sexuality, which is heterosexual. So this tactic is done various ways. It could be back in the old days. It was done through chemical castration, physical castration. Historically, it's been done through God and through the devil and all those things and myths and rules of different religions. And more commonly, we think of it as a therapy kind of racket that goes on, where your child is put into a camp or some kind of a program, and then they're reprogrammed and reconditioned to like the opposite sex again. So it is literally, it's like a form of brainwashing through trauma and through various tactics that, it's horrible, and it's torture in so many ways, and sadly, a lot of people think of it as something that happened like in the 70s and the 80s and 90s, and it kind of went away, but it's still happening just as much anywhere as it was before. But what's sad about current time is there is a right-wing kind of agenda to kind of strip away all the laws and protection rights that a lot of states have over the years put into place to protect minors, especially from this kind of practice. and they're trying to take those away so the children are not protected, so that they can actually encourage more conversion therapy, so that they're not going to be homosexuals in the world. And even like the state of Florida is trying to pass right now legislation. It's clever. It is a bill that would mandate insurance companies pay for conversion therapy for their children. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
Insurance companies would have to pay for conversion therapy, would be covered, so that we can for sure have conversion therapy for our young kids. That kind of manipulative lawmaking that's happening, reversing all the not all, but the effort that we've as a humane society that we've tried to put into place to protect children from everything from sexual abuse to work, child labor laws and those kind of things. I mean, we're talking just children under minors, being able to be protected from these kinds of practices. And why are they bad? Statistics would show, highest suicide rates are amongst the LGBT community, for example, are kids who have gone through conversion therapy. Rates of killing themselves is off the charts, because it's literally just saying you who you are as you are is bad, is broken, and you need to fix it. Otherwise, you're not going to be part of society.
Yeah. Just so people know, conversion therapy, the techniques, involve anywhere from electroshock therapy to medication, physical, harm, like snapping the rubber band on your wrist, or doing things that will make you feel like you're going through a bad experience if you have these thoughts. But the worst is the shaming. And I think that, if you go on Trevor Project website, they have all the statistics about teen suicide, and the numbers have gone up due to conversion therapy and being told that they're not good enough. They're more susceptible for bullying because they don't feel confident in the world. So I feel like, it's a bigger problem than most people think. And when it boils down to minors being subjected to this, adults can do what they want. If they wanted, go into a rehab or whatever they call it themselves, that's fine. But when a minor is put through this conversion therapy camp against their will, it becomes more traumatic.
Yeah.
So do both of you think that this is as prevalent as it is simply because the vast majority of people do not know about it? Now, besides Unfix, I didn't see Unfixed yet, but I saw another film a few years ago. I think it was where the young lady went to the camp. I can't remember the name of this film.
I may regret. No, about dementia.
No. She actually went to a conversion therapy camp. I cannot remember the name. I'm going to have to look this up. I think it was about 3 years ago when this film was made. And it was about conversion therapy. And frankly, that was the first time that I had ever heard about it. And I consider myself well-read. I consider myself to know some things, but that was the first time that I had ever heard of a camp where they're basically forcing you to if this is even a word, unbe who you are.
Exactly.
I could not imagine someone saying, Floyd, we're going to put you in a camp and we're going to shock you into thinking that you're not Black. That's who I am.
Right. No,
So,
after the camp, you won't be Black. If you are, you failed.
wow.
You failed, and you're a loser. You're failed. Yeah, you are an imperfect person. Then.
Wow.
I think the question is it a horrific crime to admit a minor into a camp to a straight minor into a camp and make him gay? Is it a horrific crime to do that?
Would that be?
And I think that the majority of Americans will say yes.
Right.
But yet a lot of them will say no when it's the reverse.
And that's I'm sorry, go ahead, Graham.
And so that is the premise of our film. It's about it's a look back at a man who when he was a child, his father was running a conversion therapy camp, and he is straight, but he was at 11, 12 years old. He was goofing around with another boy. It's translated to his father as "you're gay." So his father tells him he's gay and then runs him through the program and says, "You are gay and I'm going to fix you." And so the rest of his life, after he goes through this traumatic experiencing, and at 12 years old, you don't even know what you are. So, and then his father's kind of exploiting the whole thing for publicity purposes for the camp work that he does anyways. But now this guy's 35 years old, Ari in the story, and he is doing the research that you don't fix somebody if they're gay when they're born, they're probably gay, but he feels straight. He's in love with the woman, but he's sure that he must be gay, and he is homophobic. He's everything that goes along with the traumas of this kind of therapy work, and he's afraid he's going to slip back into being gay, and yet he's heterosexual. So it shows like Alex said, it shows the damage that anyone who is subjected to this kind of conditioning, where you are told one thing and you need to fix it, but innately that is who you are, and there's no way to fix it. There's no way to please the people who are inducing these therapies on you. It's not a fixable issue. It is the core of who you are. It's your authentic self, and they're asking you to, if you can't, at least to fake it.
And that must be unbearable, walking through life pretending.
Yeah.
Pretending to be something that you're not, and every day before you leave the house or whatever, okay, I have to put on my costume. I have to put up that facade. And oftentimes, as we've seen play out in society again and again and again, there comes a breaking point. And then someone picks up an AK-47 or an AR-15, and they may go into a church and just, do what they do. Sometimes, we don't know the reasons why they do what they do. But it could be a thing where I just can't take this anymore. So if I'm in pain, I'm going to inflict pain, which is a very interesting premise. But let me ask you this. I saw that this film was made during the pandemic. Do I get that right? Okay. So how was it actually shooting something this intense in that type of environment with all of the COVID protocols and restrictions, and being able to do some things but not being able to do a lot of other things? How did that work out?
I'll start by saying on a directorial level, on a producer level, a different experience, but still, I think equally as interesting. I think on a directorial level, I think it brought our team really close together. I felt like we had a commitment to the story. We had a commitment to our security and our safety. So we were, before we even shot, we did a lockdown for 10 days after we were prepared and everything. Everyone went into lockdown for 10 days, which is far more than anyone really needs to be, but to focus and to be completely virally as sure as possible when we finally went on set. And even so, we would mitigate when we were on set. I as a cameraman director, I couldn't wear a mask because I would steam up in my glasses. So the agreement was that me and the key actors would be unmasked in the moment of a scene. But I felt like bringing people together when we were so hungry to do work. We were so, we were terrified, but we also needed to do something. We wanted to challenge that energy back into the working again into a project that we'd all be proud of. So actually, I thought it was a great positive way to get through some of the otherwise would have been unproductive and scary COVID times.
Yeah. It was at a moment where, everything, all production in Hollywood has shut down. And so, and then we ended up casting. We took several months of casting online, submitting self-tapes was, did not limit us from seeing people and kind of seeing who's out there that was interested. So everything that people got used to doing was already in the works. They had self-tape, rooms at home. They knew how to, send stuff out. But also it was also at a time when we did have callbacks and people to come in and to read for us, it was a novelty. People are like, I haven't left my house. I haven't gone to an audition in a year and a half, almost 2 years. Wow. They're excited. They are very interested. There was not a lot of other options for them. So they made this a big deal. So I think that, everybody wanted to make sure, and we told them, don't be that person that shuts this down. Continue to be careful, continue to stay distant from people. And when we do get together, we're all testing and we're all going to make sure that we are all negative. And so that way we can move forward to the next level. And so we gave them those precautions in advance, and everybody was wanting to do this so badly that they were very diligent in being careful and not going out and understanding that they've got this important thing ahead of them. And we were lucky. A lot of it has to be, lucky that nobody had COVID during the filming. And so, we did a lot of outdoor shots later, individually, the jogging shots, the rain shots. But when we were all together, it was a good 2 to 3 weeks of just us. They couldn't see other people. They just went home, and then we would test 3 times a week. And the casting crew, it was a very small group, about 10 people crew, and the cast was like another 6, 7. So we got lucky, but we also were very careful. And I think that using everyone's desire to make this work and not be the bad potato, the bad apple. Mm-hmm. So
it's a lot of pressure to not catch it, because everyone knew that it would shut down if you did that. One isolated case is usually not one isolated case. It usually means that someone else has been affected, and when you only have a few cast and crew number, 1 or 2 down, and the whole thing shuts down. So.
And even when a crew member was like, "Oh, my roommate's boyfriend had COVID," we're like, "Okay, then you stay home. We'll cover for you, but we have to be serious about this." And so, and they were glad to do it. So,
but the story actually takes place in COVID as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
So that fed to our whole reality, and so I felt like we were telling a story about. It was current. It was a way to. The story is not about COVID, but it was locked in the moment of, that COVID anxiety, which is anxiety, which adds to the fuel of the kind of work that we were trying to say. And lockdown, that kind of lockdown concept where people are forced to kind of rehash their memories and face things right in front of them. You become. In a lockdown with a couple people, you become stripped of any kind of facade. You become naked in that sense, and your true, authentic self is questioning, whether or not it's in front of you, and it added all to that. So it was actually a really good thing. But it's not about COVID. Of course, it's about this man who is facing his memories and of what actually happened in his life as a child, and whether or not he is or is not attracted to men because he's so homophobic. He's terrified that that's because he's probably gay, and yet he's not. I mean, I think the audience can see this is just a man who's struggling with the fact that he's been told he's one thing, and he's been told he needs to fix that one thing. When in fact there was nothing ever there to fix. Thus the title unfix, which is the film.
Wow. So the intensity on the set, because of the fact that you guys were isolated, and even when they left set and went home, they're isolated because you don't want them around anyone. So now everyone, the only place you really have to go is in your head.
Mhm.
So you're with your character on set, and then you take them home, and you got to sit there with the character. So you're thinking about the character, and well, should I do it this way? And then you're thinking about the character that you're playing against. So what was the intensity level like on set? Because I saw the trailer and I was like, okay.
Yeah, you're right. It was very intense because, you know, it wasn't like I'm doing a film yet. They're preparing for other auditions, or they've got homework, or they're going to go and
Go out to dinner
and
afterwards,
and wait and wait tables. They were very focused. They went home, did nothing except for think about the film and how they're going to do their roles. Called us with every question they had, and was incredibly prepared. So in a way, COVID allowed them to give 110% to the film, which, if there was a silver lining, and I know that a lot of people found silver lining in COVID, it caused them to stop and think and kind of like go inside themselves and understand. I think that these actors were really focused because of the lack of distractions due to COVID.
Yeah,
and so the intensity did come onto set, and they were already the character as they were stepping in onto the set. So,
and we did a lot of rehearsals too. We even prior to a 10-day lockdown, we would do controlled rehearsals with limited amount of people. But we went through every major scene that we needed to go through, because I'm also operating cameraman. So directing and camera is kind of it's like two hats at the same time. It's not as ideal. So I try to do all my directing early, and we just know the story. So on the days of shooting, they would just come in and they knew everything. They knew the lines, they knew the moment, they knew the beat, they knew the intent. They were just ready to go. And so when you're ready to go and you're doing a small team and you're that prepared, you also move fast. So we were doing multiple scenes a day and working in a linear fashion. So it was exhilarating at the same time. So it was a great experience. So yeah, I mean, just silver linings all over the place when it comes to COVID.
Wow. So that's great. I definitely cannot wait to see this film. I got one more question for you, gentlemen. The title of the film was originally Not Unfixed. So how did you end up coming up with that title?
I think it's always been.
Well, I think we sat down and we thought about different names.
Well, yeah, not publicly. I think we've only released the title Unfix, and it's
as a working title.
UNFIX.
Mm-hmm.
So it's in present day. So that's what he's trying to do now.
Okay.
Yeah. So because he was fixed, past tense, but now he's trying to unfix, so that way he can move forward with his life and the love of his life, who's a woman. But you can
go to Unfix and UNFIX.com, movie.com. You can see more about it. But I think the title, we went all over the place with the title. And
did we have a working title?
I had several working titles. Yeah.
Yeah. It was
the thing I never told you, or
that thing I never told you. That was the first. Was the first title.
Because it's truly a story about one person in his journey, but it's four people's story. It's four people locked together. All of them have issues, but it pivots around Ari, the one who went through conversion therapy. Yeah. To illustrate the point that when someone goes through a trauma such as conversion therapy or any kind of a trauma, it's not an isolated thing just for that person as well. It affects everybody around them in some way. And that was the piece that we were trying to connect everybody together by one person's trauma, and how it affects everyone and can be destructive for everyone, how it can how it can really be a painful experience for everybody in some way or another. So, yeah, that's so Unfix. That was the title from the beginning, as far as really rolling it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Something that I never told you. It was a title. Yeah.
Yeah. Working title.
Working title. And of course, you know, when you're naming your film, you know, distributors are like, make sure it starts with like the top of the alphabet. And we're like, okay, a problem, because I'm not, you know.
Well,
and then we just like, you know what, we're just gonna go with Unfix You. It matched what we wanted to say, and we don't care if you have to kind of keep searching down the alphabet to find
Right.
it. Hopefully somebody will just tell you to go straight there.
Wow. So what's next?
we're digging around in our grab bag of a couple of different films that two that we wrote several years ago that we love and just want to make. And then we've also been asked to consider another film that would take place in Chicago, so not so far away. And that would be a wonderful film to do too. So we got a couple things in the makings, and we're still on the last legs of Unfix for the festivals. We have a festival playing next week,
March 17th,
which is St. Patrick's Day. It's actually interesting because we are going to have you would love this especially. We're doing a live social media live where the actors from the film Unfix are meeting with real conversion therapy survivors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, talking about their experiences. Wow. It's fascinating. And one of them was a consultant for the film itself. So really amazing people, all completely different stories, different journeys. They're going to be really frank about what happened and how they felt, their contemplation with suicide, all of them at one point in their life, what turned them around, how they, there's an organization called the Conversion Therapy Dropout Network. Those are people who said, screw it, I'm dropping out. I'm not going to pass this class. At the dismay of their parents and loved ones, they just said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Sorry.
No, this is no dope show. You can curse.
Just point people in their circle for the sake of sanity, and self-respect. And then later in the day on the 17th, we have a demonstration rally in front of the Lumley Theaters where conversion therapy survivors are holding up statistics. And it's a big awareness kind of campaign rally that we're doing a demonstration there. And then we have a screening at 4:45 in North Hollywood. And
at that theater.
We try to make the screening of the film not just be that, but an opportunity for people to get together and tell their stories and to say to people like, who don't know anything about conversion therapy, this is what it's like. And it's happening right now. And if we don't do anything about it, we don't get involved, it's going to happen even more and more and more and more.
Yeah, this is definitely an important topic, and you guys definitely have to come back, because I will definitely want to talk about this again, because the legislation that they're looking to trying to pass in Florida regarding insurance companies, that's ridiculous. But if people don't know, you can't fight what you don't know.
Yeah.
So the fact that the two of you have, made such an amazing film that's socially conscious, that will bring this type of heinous practice to the public's awareness is commendable. And I commend you guys. And if there's anything that I can do to help spread that message, please let me know, because what we were talking about before we came on air. So you guys know exactly where I lean on things like this. So I'm all in for the fight, because it's definitely a fight that we now have on our hands, because they are trying to roll back everything, and they don't care who they hurt or do to, whatever to in their path. It's all about them just trying to take complete and total control. And, people like yourselves that are putting out these type of films, and, people like myself, it's up to us to combat, those types of things. So,
Yeah.
gentlemen, where can people find you?
Well, they can go to unfixedmovie.com or imperativepictures.com, and that will list out all of our films and all of the trailers and where they can watch them.
We usually post where our festivals are happening, our current lineup. You can see more about the actors. You can watch the trailer. There's
Behind the scenes.
behind the scenes. There's a 2-hour documentary on the making of the film, which is for the filmmaker themselves. Some people find that to be even more exciting than the film. So, and by the way, no big explosions.
No explosions, ladies and gentlemen.
Except for their
an explosion of emotions and an explosion of thought.
Yes.
So that's a phenomenal explosion. And where can they find you on social media? Graham, I know you're on social media.
Gosh,
Where
I'm
can
not that much. I guess
no?
you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram at Graham Streeter. Easy enough.
Yeah.
We also have an Unfixed Movie on
Instagram
and Imperative Pictures on Instagram. I'm
Okay,
not on TikTok. I'm not one of those, but maybe someday.
Yeah.
When we start doing imperative musicals.
But on the 17th, on March 17th, when we do the roundtable discussion with the survivors and our actors, we are on TikTok that day. So I'll be sure to spread the word on it and let you know.
Yeah. It's it'll be at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, TikTok. So whoever's here with the accounts, they will be hosting, as well as Unfixed Movie.
And I think all of our actors and all the survivors are all doing their own live at the same simultaneously. We're all doing it simultaneously. So if you're following one of them, they would have your information. Or like Alex said, if you go to Unfixed Movie or if you go to our Facebooks or anything like that, you'll see the announcement for the live, and we can give it to you as well.
Okay, awesome. So we can put it in show notes. Well, gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure talking with the both of you about various things, but most importantly about this phenomenal film, Unfixed. And ladies and gentlemen, please share this with your friends, because this is a very important topic that we definitely want to get out to the masses. Because again, if you're educated, there are certain things that you can do, but if you're not in the know, they can do anything that they absolutely want to you. And if you like the episode, please share it on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, because we are going to be bringing you guys more phenomenal interviews like Graham and Alex. And again, this was an absolutely amazing interview. And if you want to follow me, it's Floyd Marshall Jr. on all platforms. I'm on everything. I am on TikTok. I am on TikTok. Yeah, TikTok is not bad. TikTok has, so you guys may want to consider getting on TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok has some absolutely, I fought it for years. TikTok has great reach. But again, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me and giving me an hour of your time on a conversation with, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I look forward to the next time that I absolutely get to sit down and chop it up with two absolutely amazing people. So until then, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, love this like a hobby, but treat it like a business. And on that note, everyone have an absolutely phenomenal night.
Thank you, Floyd. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.